Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for coming tonight. And welcome. My name is Kate James. I'm the director here at Concord Art, and you are at the reception for painter Katie Schneider and poet and songwriter Jim Armenti. We are celebrating their collaboration, Silver Linings, Paintings, Process, and Poetry. Tonight's program will be in two parts. First, a poetry reading, and then a Q&A with the artists. We will hear a fraction of Jim's poetry, as he wrote as many poems as there are paintings in the show, which is over 500. Amazing. And we will hear poems from a handful of community members. Following the poems, we will have some time for questions with Katie and Jim. So please write any questions in the chat box during the course of the evening that might come up. I'd like to thank everyone who wrote poems, helping us mark April as National Poetry Month. And I'm so sorry we can't hear all of the poems that were written. But thank you for really looking and then thinking about what these everyday images mean to you. We are so very grateful to the 7th grade class at Concord Middle School with English teacher Alyssa Begay, and thank her for inspiring her very talented students, and thank them for their contributions to tonight's program. Our installation team, who with Katie's help really did outdo themselves, consisted of Bill, Charles, Marissa, Sasha, Holly, and Jane. Thank you to all of you. And also I'd like to thank Sig Ruse for telling me about this body of paintings that is quite amazing. And where would we be without our sponsors? Many thanks to Nancy Traversy of Barefoot Books and Kate and Robert Chartner. Mostly thank you to Katie and Jim for sharing your remarkable project with all of us. Katie and Jim forged a unique and inspired collaboration over the past year. And when I first saw the work on Katie's studio walls, I was speechless and then couldn't stop talking, oohing and eyeing mostly. And I hope all of you will be able to come see this show. It's been mostly described as, oh my God, this is incredible. Sometimes I think that's what we should have called it. That, of course, refers to both the number of tiny paintings and Katie's incredible skill. They are all jewels. We have enjoyed hearing which painting resonates with each patron the most and why it touches them. And then with the help of QR codes, it is magical to hear Jim's mellifluous voice in the gallery reading his poems via personal cell phones. I have frankly just loved how engaged our audience has been with the work, young and old. Engagement is everything in an exhibition, and Katie's artwork engages and Jim's voice drives it home. The silver lining to having a reception toward the end of a show is you already know how good the show is. If you have not seen it, come soon. The show ends on May 13th. And now I am honored to introduce to you Jim Armenti and tonight's first poem. Jim actually grew up right here in Concord and currently lives and works as a musician in Northampton, Mass. Take it away, Jim. Thank you.
Thank you, Kate. I just have to correct one. I am focused in Northampton, but I live in West Hampton, and I'll hear about it if I don't correct that. So,
Thank you.
This poem is and painting are both called Back of Fender Deluxe, and it was written on June 14th when I saw this painting. In the 7th grade at Emerson Junior High, a sandy 2-story brick building just down the street, but miles away from the Peter Bulkley Middle School, where I had just graduated, having modulated there from the 4th grade at the Harvey Wheeler School, where I began with Mr. Di Pasquale, a lifelong commitment to the clarinet. Pickup notes to the late bus. Why so many dickheads on the late bus? Detention. You had to measure your part in using the late bus at 4:25, parked at PBS, a few blocks down and near Peter Warren's house, where $100 of newspaper deliveries had purchased his almost brand new Fender Deluxe Reverb amp. But here I was, dragging it up on the late bus where three especially nasty girls hid away from the driver with two nasty guys smoking larks and plotting stupidity. I watched from a distance until they slowly boarded the bus with ominous low horns and timpani, the slow build of tension, as an unseen conductor brought forth the inevitable triple forte moment. I waited until just before the doors closed to get on with my 42-pound amp with dust cover, looking down always, taking a middle seat away from the back of the bus and the laughter of bullies. The walk from my stop to home was about 3 blocks, past Barry Carson's house and Mr. Migliaccio and the D'Agostino's, the Marazzis and the Davis house, down Bayberry and Rudy Graff, the Sheehan's, and the Citroen parked at Leahy's, Glennon's, Old Man D'Agostino's, and into my downstairs bedroom. Coda. No single artifact in my life has hosted so many fun, exciting, triumphant, big bang, whoosh and clamor, adventures and treasures as that 1965 Fender Deluxe Reverb amp. $100 a song. Thank you.
Jane, would you like to go?
Yes. Whoops. Dropped my poem. I'm Jane Deering, and my poem is titled The Colander and Other Friends in My Mother's Kitchen. It hung on a hook, the colander, to the right of the stove and next to the big heavy pot for boiling lobsters in summer. We didn't have a summer house. We had one house, a house for all seasons. It, the colander, was dented but perfectly usable, and the handles were intact. And the perforated stars ringed round the bowl like a constellation. Its friend, the stove, was freestanding. It had 2 ovens, one of which was used only to store extra pots and pans. The fridge, another friend, was freestanding too, and had a pull-down handle, but was changed out for a new model with a big chrome sidebar that could yank open the door. There was no 7-foot island for sitting round or granite counters either. Our countertops were formica with chrome trim, and the floor was linoleum, aqua, with yellow inlaid strips. I thought it was so pretty. And there was an ironing board, such a good friend, built into the wall to be pulled down on Monday afternoons when Mother ironed our cotton dresses. We were 4 girls, and Father's shirts. I remember the meat grinder she clamped to the big maple table to grind Sunday's leftover roast and potatoes into hash. And she had a sifter, de rigueur for cake baking. You squeezed the handle, which turned the blades, which sifted the flour into a pile of soft snow. I can still hear the sound of that sifter. That maple table had an extender at each end, which we would pull out to make it large enough for ping pong games. And later, she let us and our friends carve our names and pictures into the maple wood table. And our friends would say, "Our mother would never let us do that." But our mother was an artist. We ate dinner at 5, then went to our rooms to do our homework so that she could have a silent evening after washing the dishes and hanging the colander back on its hook. Thank you.
Oh,
Kate, you're up.
I'm up. I'm so sorry. I just realized this is a poem by my mother-in-law who is 98, and she decided she was gonna go to bed early tonight, so I'm going to read it for her. Waffle by Valeska James. A waffle woefully waiting, wanting butter and syrup to come and cover it comfortably, cozy. It wants to be nibbled now because, like a person, a waffle gets old. Thank you.
Tally.
Okay, hello everybody. I'm Tally Forbes, and I chose the beautiful painting of striped boots. Take me walking with this pair of striped boots. I'll tramp through the puddles. I'll jump on tree roots. Is there something wrong? Are you not hearing me?
I hear you fine.
We hear you.
Okay, fine.
Tally.
There's
You're doing
something. Okay, there's something that's come up on my screen. All right, I'll wander around with little to care and creep up on frogs, might even catch a pair. With stripes on my boots, in mud I'll be playing. Who cares if I trip? That's what I'll be saying. And when I get home, I'll turn on the hose and clean my striped boots while I wiggle my toes. These boots are for me, the best in the show. Of these 16 pairs, these ones really glow. Who painted those stripes? Only the artist will tell, but I'm guessing she did and wore them as well. If I painted my boots, I'd give them stripes too, and I'd wear them so proudly to visit the zoo. And I'd tell the zebra, you got nothing on me, 'cause my stripes are colored by an artist, you see. Thank you.
Oh, stuff pops up. Okay, this is called 1956 Baby Shoes. Bathed in sunlight, that's what you want. No one thinks, put this kid in the fog where you can't see what's coming in front of your face. Put this kid in a rainstorm, a downpour of neglect, and this kid can be washed of all kindness and good thoughts in this flood of parental betrayal. Then he can lift him, her, themself up and away, the way all light and airy things do. But how can that be when we have raised him, her, them in the dark, wet leftovers of our own grown lives and put the weight of the world in those tiny shoes? Thank you.
Hello, my name is Sarah Nadzo. I am 13 and the 7th grader at Concord Middle School. I was inspired to create this poem by the painting of marshmallows in my sleepaway camp. Quiet night. We gather around the fire, the stars hiding behind the big, talkative trees. My eyes are barely open. Cool air on my nose nudges me awake. My friends are talking loudly, but the forest is quiet. Our voices echo for people near and far to hear. We hunt for sticks in the prickly woods. I discover the perfect one. Sweet smells of marshmallow take over. What a smell. The fire warms me as I roast my marshmallow. We tell stories and sing songs. The sweetness of the marshmallow hits my tongue. I savor it as it slowly melts away. I ground myself in this place and try and remember it forever. Thank you and have a good evening.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Shamarabila Adunze. I'm 13 and I'm in 7th grade and I go to Concord Middle School. The object that inspired me for my poem is the weights. Quarantine weights. Weights sway us down. They make us feel like breaking, feel like too much to bear. Wear us out and make us sweat, leave us all sticky and wet. Lock our arms and joints. What comes out of this work? What good can come of this? Strength, confidence. From trial we grow strong, like a mighty bear in the woods. After the breaking, we stop shaking. When you pick up a weight, it pulls toward the floor. but the term is called lifting weights, not bearing weights. The sweat and sticks seem so thick, but afterwards you feel strong, standing tall like a calm giraffe until time is up and it's time to roam elsewhere. They make us feel like breaking, tire us and make us sweat, lock our arms and joints. What good can come of this? Strength, confidence. Thank you.
Avocados and red peppers. Sometimes I imagine having all the things I want all the time, anytime, every time, day and night, week after week, month by year by decade, until I want death, I suppose. Cigarettes used to fill that fantasy world for me for quite a great many breaths. The inhalation of a dream, freedom, success, the exhalation only in the name of furthering my wish to have what I want in the moment. What is it like to have to live with the restrictions of nature and physics on a daily basis? What was told to children 1,000 years ago when the apples were all fallen and composting on the ground, eaten by deer and moose and bear? Did native children in winter ever have a tantrum, screeching that they wanted a fresh, crispy apple and right now? I want it. I want an apple. Could that happen? Or was it so natural that the world controls these things and not the whims of anyone, not me? It's the weather, the time of year. It's far away, and no one has invented ships. It's impossible. Is it good that all year round I can have things out of season, out of place, anytime, by phone app or car? How much easier it is to have a flow and ebb, a breathing of the ordinary endings of desire. Thank you.
Okay, I'm Willa Goodwin, and I did the girl's body because, 50% of the population has it. I'm 13 years old, and I go to Sanborn Middle School, and my teacher is Miss Begay. Okay, so I never thought getting dressed in the morning would be such a big deal. It's just pieces of clothing, right? But no, not when all people ever see is our bodies. You don't want people to look at you and call you the names they only use for girls. They don't think that a quick, her thighs look bad in that skirt can ruin the whole image we have of our bodies. I never thought showing too little skin would be so painful. In this world, you're either a prude or the exact opposite. So what should we do to make society accept us? How can the same person who says that we are powerful also dress code us and make us feel like our bodies are something to be scared of? Like women are just dolls to hold on to until you get bored of us. How can wear what makes you comfortable turn into take that off, you're showing too much skin? Being a girl is not a superpower, not if everyone is trying to hide what makes girls women. You're not teaching us by shaping us into something we're not. Why not give up on calling us names instead of and use the power you have as an adult to empower us instead of whispering about us behind a restaurant booth? We're the children here, not you. Okay, thank you.
Hello, my name is Silas Moriarty. I'm in the 7th grade. My poem is called Long Forgot, and it's about a teddy bear left in Chernobyl. Enjoy. The small little teddy sits in the street. It watches the sun fade from the sky. Many suns die and many moons born. The smiles of children are long forgot. The building of power now seeps radiation. A city of glory, a long distant memory, all in ruins. The moans of the dead are so very present. The towers do scream, the birds did stop singing. An explosion he heard, and the screams of the damned. Teddy, oh Teddy, sits in the street, cannot wipe his eyes, forever he weeps.
Nice. This is called Awful Chocolate Cream Pie. Whatever this is, here on my plate, a small portion in my mouth. Whatever this is, it's not what the label on the box claims it to be. Chocolate cream pie. I don't think so. For one, this brown cornstarch glop should be loudly labeled for what it really is, chock-a-muck. A disastrous, dark stain on the land where I've just stepped with my new white sneakers. The horror and loss of joy in my mouth is profound, a cul-de-sac of misunderstanding. And the cream. No, I'm sure that's completely wrong, and that this vapid fog of white chemicals certainly never met a cow, never swam with fresh milk, and waited generously to rise from its origins to greatness on fresh fruit. Let's not overlook the so-called crust, sweepings of the woodshop floor, shredded paper recovered from the bottom of the canary cage and pressed together in the shape of, yes, in the shape of a pie. And don't forget the trickery of the bits of dark detritus spread around the top to convince me that somewhere under the shards and chemicals is a bit of food, something delicious. They fooled my eyes with the name, the colors, the shapes, the costume of fun and goodness. A cheap trick performed by a joyless magician. He reaches into his hat and pulls out fully made. Chock-a-muck, cleave, cry. Voila. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Allison, and I'm a 13-year-old student at Concord Middle School, and my current English teacher is Ms. Begay. This is my poem inspired by the marshmallow painting by Katie Schneider at Concord Art. Marshmallow. The fire crackles and snaps, but the roaring is a comfort. Orange flames dance around the marshmallow, a playful dance of joy. The air swims in smoggy smoke, but the smell of chocolate prevails. The sky is as dark as black paint, but the stars glitter and glow. The marshmallow is pulled from its fiery blanket, its outsides are wrinkly and charred. I peel off the layer of black, only to find stretchy, gooey white underneath. The taste is sweet and melts in my mouth, but the company is sweeter. Thank you.
My name is Brooke. I am a 12-year-old student at Concord Middle School, and this is my poem, Escape, inspired by Katie's painting of a deck of cards. Escape. The musty smell of old cards, capered with for years and years. They hold with them all the memories, the fun, the laughter, even the tears. As you begin each game, it is the start of something new, shuffling all thoughts and feelings into one ready brew. You pour the brew and deal it out evenly. Sit back, get ready for a night of great contest, one you will remember vividly. The musty smell of old cards, capered with for years and years. They hold with them all the memories, fun, laughter, even the tears. Late nights, vacations, parties, packed into such a tight space. Airports, beaches, porches, it carries with them every place. From when we were young, we picked up this deck. We frolicked until light ran out, even the tiniest speck. The musty smell of old cards, capered with for years and years, they hold with them all the memories, fun, laughter, even the tears. When everything changed and the world turned dark, you could still pull out this deck, nothing lost, not even a spark. Out with the lofty trees and the feathery flowers, you can still fetch the deck and play. The game we have played our whole lives, now an escape, to let our thoughts wash away. The musty smell of old cards, capered with for years and years, they hold with them all the memories, fun, laughter, even tears. Thank you.
Asian takeout box. On the bullet train to Nagoya, 35 American singers and band, the Tech Crew. We are flying through the land smoothly, gliding our feng shui casual fitting in like kittens on the moon. Roaming the aisles, loud, greeting each other as though we haven't been in the same space with each other for the last 3 weeks. But time allows for only so much in the way of neighborly discourse. And now the jovial exchanges fly like the bullet train, each sighting of strange buildings, farms, a fleeting glimpse before we rocket past. I have lifted Jeannie onto the train over the terrifying inch of space between it and the platform. I have lifted her by her 85-year-old armpits and swung her onto the train through the open doors because she is afraid and can't make herself do it. Now at lunch, we each get a bento box with 6 compartments full of strange, colorful, delightful morsels, which together, at over 200 miles per hour, make a delicious lunch. Thank you.
My name is Megan. I am 13 years old and I go to Concord Middle School. The object that inspired me to write my poem was the roll of tape painted by Kate. Tape stitches together what's been broken, fixes what's been ripped apart. The off-white roll rests in an old school art room, cracking and fading from lack of use. It waits to be pulled out of the supply cupboard to be stretched across a canvas with little hope. It does its job well, piecing back together creativity that has not been perfected, helping the artist master their masterpiece. A young artist cuts and snips at colorful paper with no plan ahead for the finished piece. Their scissors run out of their control, cutting where they're not meant to cut. The paper falls to the table, sliced in two. The young artist cries. They do not know all is not lost. They hold up the misshapen paper, looking at its flaws and mistakes. A kind teacher reaches into the stuffy cupboard and offers the artist a roll of tape. The tape unrolls and crosses the bridge between the 2 sheets of color, and just like that, it is whole again. The young artist grins, proud of their art, forgetting how broken it was minutes before. The roll of tape returns to the supply closet once more. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Tyler. I'm a 7th grader at Concord Middle School, and this is my poem, Mind Eraser, inspired by Katie's painting of the eraser. The eraser of thoughts, ideas, and uniqueness. You delete my confidence and identity, and I wish you couldn't. My ideas, like a bee, buzzing across on the paper and then shooed away and gone for good. You're the voice in my head, the blocker of the lead. You're tiny, yet so powerful. With a few strokes, you can kill something that I put my heart and soul into. Always there, willing to wield your power. I wish you would leave like a wave crashing on the beach, so I could be my truest self. I know that even if you left, you would never be truly gone, because a wave always returns. Constantly in my head, criticizing everything I do, leaving me no choice except to learn to live with you. Thank you.
And to finish it off,
Ballet slippers. When you drive up to the Grand Canyon from Phoenix, if you have any sense of geology, it's easy to imagine yourself under a half-mile of ocean full of sea life, wafting in the gentle currents of the deep, low-gravity water. As you look down into the canyon, you can see the cuts, the ribbons, and striations of motion, water uplifted plates and swirling winds, the incredible eons-long dance of forces, in the company of gaudily festooned rocky shapes. People sometimes think that humans are not part of this, that we, with our great imaginations and special place in nature, come by our arts through God and his works, that they are independent of the obvious world. Look here at the empty shoes, still shaped by 100, 1,000, 10,000 steps on point in plie, spinning and twirling, the lift, the glide, the great, slow, graceful, windy occupation of the stage, with the faith that it's not disconnected, but is in fact the only dance there is. Thank you.
that was awesome. It was amazing. Kate, would you like to lead into the Q&A? Just unmute yourself first.
Great.
Here you go.
Thank you so much. What talent. This is amazing. I'm in tears. It's just really remarkable. I mean, I already knew that Jim, because I've been listening to him read his poems in the gallery, and I know all of them by heart. I knew he was a great poet, but I didn't know we had so much talent right here in Concord, in the 7th grade, and also in some people who graduated who read in the beginning of the evening. Really amazing. So I think it's time to have some questions, and I see that there were some already in the chat. And so let's start with a question from me. This question is for both Katie and Jim, and I hope that you can answer it, each one of you, if you could answer it, maybe Katie first. Both of you are such accomplished artists and teachers, and teachers are a big part of our lives. Where did you get your inspiration when you first started out? And who was your favorite teacher or teachers, and why? Thank you.
Well, I guess the biggest influence was my husband, Dave, who I met when I was an undergrad, and he was a grad student. And I got a lot of opportunity to watch him paint. And that's an education right there, just watching someone. But he always knew he wanted to be an artist, and I never actually considered that as a possibility. So just having someone in your life who's, modeling that, it's very powerful. And I thought after meeting him, oh, well, I'm sort of like him in a lot of ways. Maybe I could do it too. That's all it really took.
Thank you.
I've been asked this question before, I guess, because I go to career day at the regional high school here for 15 years and talk about becoming an artist. And I just turned away from things one after another until that's all that was left, sort of. I grew up in a very creative family. My father was incredibly creative as a musician. My mother made things, she could sew everything. And it was around me all the time, but I never thought it was a life, or eventually I thought there was no other life, I suppose. And I just didn't fit in other ways. And I can't say I had, I loved my teachers, some of them, and I had great times at the Peter Buckley School and the Emerson Junior High and in Concord. But no one really steered me. I don't know why that is or anything. I think I just kept turning down other things to always be able to make things. Is all the best I can manage about that.
Great. I have some questions from the chat that I can read out to you guys. The first question says, there are so many paintings of shoes in the show. Katie, what is it about shoes that draws you to paint them? And Jim, do shoes lend themselves well to poetry as a subject? If yes, why?
Katie? Oh.
Well, the shoes. Okay, so when COVID hit, I thought I would just 100% indulge myself. And I'd always loved Van Gogh's Boots, that painting. And I thought, oh, that's just what I feel like painting. I'm just going to indulge myself. I'm going to paint my own Doc Martens. So it started with those. And then I thought, okay, this is fun. I think with all these panels that I had, and I had 300 at that point, I thought, I'm just going to do all the pairs of shoes I have. And once I started filling the wall with the shoes, which, I liked painting because they all had really great textures, and there were a lot of different colors I hadn't had an opportunity to use very often. But what is it about the shoes? Okay, there's two things. First of all, who doesn't like shoes? But I have a twin sister, Peggy, who really loves shoes. This is nothing. My obsession with shoes is nothing compared to my sister, Peggy, who has really some incredible shoes and other items. But as all the shoes started accumulating on the wall, I really started to feel a presence of people. People by their shoes, and I know my sister Peggy very much by her shoes. But when I was, hearing about all the deaths from COVID and how the families couldn't, be with the families, they couldn't be with the person who was passing away, and they had to take their belongings and toss them out. I realized that, part of my sort of obsession with the shoes had to do with really actually a memory. When my mother had died, the day after, I had to throw away her shoes in a garbage bag. We were clearing out her apartment. It was so soon after she died. And so I guess I equate death with the shoes. And so, yeah, it's kind of morbid, even though the show is really I'm trying to be really positive. I mean, it's my way of staying happy to create these paintings, but there's also a dark side of the whole thing. Obviously, this is a dark year. So Jim, your turn.
So when Katie sent me an email, she sent it to a lot of people. I'm doing these paintings every day, and does anyone want to write something? And, I wrote back a poem, and on it went. So they were all about shoes in the beginning, and so I have a folder on the way this project went. Is I would get an email in the morning, there would be a picture, I drag it to my desktop, I drag it back into an email, and there it sits, much bigger than the actual real painting. It turns out, and I never saw the real ones for, I don't know, 9 or 10 months, Katie, maybe. And it didn't even credit. I didn't even credit that she was making them. They were just these images, and it took me months to figure out that every detail was created by her. I mean, I just didn't think that way. Anyway, they all went in a folder called the Katie Shoe Project, because they were all shoes, and I have no affinity for shoes. I'm not a fan of shoes. I rarely wear shoes, and during the COVID year, I only wore them on Monday when I went to the store, and that was pretty much it. I don't wear them to get the mail in the snow or the wood or any other thing. I don't like shoes. So, but they're not shoes; they're paintings, and of course, everything she painted became, had an attitude and a personality and some sort of character. There was always some story to find. It seemed like, to me, they were slumping over, or they were pointing in a direction or opposite directions, or a shoe would come, one would be upside down, the other one would be on top of it. And you're like, what's with this pair of shoes? Why is one upside down? And that's what I mean about it. It took me quite a while to figure out that, she would always put them in a certain way to paint them. It wasn't like the shoes got together and went like, well, this one's upside down, or we got two lefts, or whatever it was. So it would just be an unraveling of some story for me, as far as the shoes went. But I don't have an affinity for shoes.
Awesome.
That's true. He's often barefoot.
Thank you for those generous answers. The next question talks about the choice to go with the small format. If you can tell us, Katie, a little bit about that kind of origin story and how that came to be.
Sure. Well, I've done even smaller ones. So these are 3 by 4 inches, and I've done 1-inch paintings. I just love being able to hold something in my lap. And I got, these were going to be thrown away, these pieces of aluminum. I got them from Smith College in the art history department. They used to separate slides in these drawers. So they were a cool material, and the reflective aspect of them I really enjoy, because it's almost like there's a deep space around this close-up object. The photographs are actually kind of painful for me to see, because it doesn't look like that at all. I really like to take pictures of them in a very precise lighting, so that I don't know, I'm picky about this, but the size, yeah, it has to do a lot with my upbringing, I suppose. I grew up with 9 people in a 2-bedroom apartment. And so everything I had to be small to fit, my possessions. I used to just collect a lot of tiny things, but in general, I really couldn't have big things. And so I was, I guess, just drawn to small things because I could have them if they were small. But I like to make that work. I like to try to make them grow, make them seem bigger.
Yeah. I guess I would also modify that question for Jim after hearing that you didn't know the scale of the paintings at first, and what kind of affect that had on you and the poetry when you realized, how small they were, if that kind of changed your understanding of the work.
Actually, I mean, I knew she was. Katie and I definitely share an affinity for cast off things, for not wasting things, and she brought those home because she looks at, what this is. I'm going to make up the story, and Katie won't correct me. There are these things in their boxes, and they're going to go into the dumpster. And who would waste a box of 250 little aluminum squares when you could make paintings on them? I'm the same way. I mean, I just can't bear to see something just wasted in a dumpster. So we definitely have an affinity for that, and for the uplifting of ordinary objects, which was, why so many of the paintings are of, I don't want to call it nonsense, but I mean, toothpaste on a piece of aluminum. I mean, it's a smear of toothpaste. So I forget what the topic was there, but I knew they were small, but it's just that the way I interacted with them was completely separate. It was, she had to take a picture and upload it to her computer and send it to me on email. And then I dragged it off the email and my computer looked at it and showed it to me. And those things are invisible, but they all do things. They are not the painting that she sat and worked on in front of her, and they're not the ones on the wall that you stand in front of and look at. There's some variation, in the same way that if I sing into a microphone that comes out of PA, that's not my voice. It's my voice through 10,000 watts of God knows what. So it's, things change on the way here and there. So I knew they were small. It wasn't that. I won't take credit for your out of my lack of imagination. I just really didn't. It took me quite a while to imagine her sitting there going like, "Wow, she put that little yellow mark there, and now I think there's a glint in this thing." I mean, I'm not a painter. I can't manage color. I'm strictly black and white. So that's.
Great.
Oh, my friends want to speak up, I guess. I see right in the middle of my screen, Steve Westfield. Did you guys write, like, how do you jump into this? What? Yeah, see, now they're waving at me. I can't read the chat. So maybe is it Marissa? Are you?
Yeah, I have lots more questions in the chat.
All right.
And
those guys will get violent if they don't,
Oh, we're getting to them. So this one is for Jim, and it says, has this project influenced your songwriting or music, and have you written any shoe songs?
I do have a song, If I Had No Shoes, actually, is called, and it was the story of a alcoholic derelict woman who had just been left alone in an alley next to the music store where I teach, because the police took away her boyfriend, Mike, on some warrants. And we ended up taking her to the police station to try to help her out, but no one could help her out, it turned out. But I have that. It's a pretty, good song. It's called If I Had No Shoes. So I don't think I have any other songs about good shoes. I don't have any. I just don't, I mean, it doesn't come up in my world. So, and as far as writing poetry and songs, no, I find, no, for me, they're just really completely different. There's an overlap, but songs have a lot of rigidity and it just, you have to fit them into places. And poetry feels much more open for me. Even if I insist on rhyming or meter, it still feels more open. And music just imposes, a march or something on things. And once you got a friend of mine famously said, once there's a snare drum, it's a march. And no matter what else you do, it's a march. So songwriting lyrics have these boundaries that are really challenging, so.
Yeah. I have a couple questions for Katie. I'll start here. Katie, how did the poems make or change how you felt about your paintings?
I liked them better. And as a matter of fact, there were some I really didn't want to send. I was like, oh, this is not my best. And then Jim found what was, I suppose, making me want to send it to him ultimately. I mean, I didn't have to send him it, but yeah, there were, I would have to say that, like, the paintings I just was so unsure of always led to the poems that I think I liked the best. So thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
And another one for Katie, it says, when I went to the exhibit, there were so many paintings. Did you ever take a moment to just sit back and realize how much you've painted through this project?
Well, when I went to the show at Concord, that's when I realized it, when I saw them all up, and that it couldn't even fit in that enormous room, because I had sort of squished them all together in a corner of this studio, and you can sort of see, blank walls, but they were all squished together like that as one big painting. And so, yes, I was surprised and kind of proud, but I got arthritis this year. So, yeah, I did work hard. I feel it.
And another question for Katie. I see more paintings on the wall behind you. Do you think you'll continue painting every day with the pandemic once it's over?
Well, I see a lot of opportunity for new ways of composing with grids and how they relate to each other. So I think I will. It's been really, really fun. And there's still plenty of objects I haven't really done yet. Every day it's kind of fun to think, what haven't I done? And so my daughter, she brought me back some hangers. She really looks at the world the way I do now. And she works with patients with dementia. And someone died, and they had these hangers in the closet, and the family was giving away some of the things. And so Olive called me and said, I have some hangers here they're giving away. Would you like them? And that was the last painting I sent to Jim. And I love the hangers. So yeah, I'm shocked I didn't think of the hangers earlier.
You shouldn't have a good pile of hangers before that.
One more for Katie. Do your large paintings look at all like your smaller ones? Or how do they differ? How do they compare, if at all?
Okay, I'm thinking which large paintings. Everything is pretty small, but relatively speaking, oh yes, I have much, much larger ones. And they are different because I've never worked with one object. I've never simplified in this way. And in the past, all my work has been about organizing chaos. And so I put in so much information and then I take away. Here, I just added one thing, and then obviously there's stuff happening around the object, but it was a very luxurious thing for me to attempt to do. Like, I'm just going to be so much easier on myself. I'm going to just stick with one object that I can finish every single day. But yeah, it's been a very interesting process to make something that is actually not complete. Like, I don't see each image as a complete painting. I see it as part of usually a grid of 9. And when I can get 9 working, then it's sort of like a complete statement. But in general, I see the entire 500 as one painting. I like looking at them in groups of 9 to see the whole, but it's my biggest painting so far. And I see it as a self-portrait. I think that it's something that tells more about me than my face.
So I have a question for you guys, and I want to ask because I know we do have a lot of young, talented artists and poets and thinkers here with us tonight. And you guys both have such distinct artistic voices. And so this could be big, but in brief, do you have any kind of words of advice or things that you did that really helped you to find your voice when you were first becoming an artist or becoming a poet or a musician that you could offer for these folks?
Boy, I wish I had an answer for that. That'd be great. I only took in my life, I only took one creative writing class, and it was to fulfill something at the University of Massachusetts, and the teacher was a graduate student, and it was great. I really enjoyed myself. And at some point, he said to me, "It seems like you can't write until you find the voice you want to use to speak." And he was completely right. Because it's not autobiographical when you write. It's not, and it's certainly not true. It's certainly, I'm not a historian or a fact finder or a journalist or anything else like that. it's and so I have to have I think I have to envision the speaker, and it's not always me. And so when I see, for example, the painting, let's say that pile of hangers, I don't have anything to say about a pile of plastic hangers at all. And by the way, it doesn't stop with shoes. I don't have anything worthwhile in my closet either. So, I don't have any, I mean, I just don't, hangers don't come into my world, or umbrellas or shoehorns or 100 other things she drew pictures of. But I look at the hangers, and they're not just a pile of hangers, because I know now that she's put them in a particular way. And by the way, the orange hanger is jutting through the blue hanger and sticking underneath, like it didn't just happen that way. She did it. And so my mind starts to go, just to think about hangers, and I just follow it around, really. And then sooner or later it bumps into something and turns into some idea. I don't know how else to express that. I mean, it's just, but you're completely right that the voice that's speaking, first of all, isn't always my own, or often my own, and and secondly, I have to find that voice that can say the thing that I've thought of about the image, really.
I think that's an excellent answer.
Really? I'm gonna write that down.
I'll let Katie, if you have any words to share.
Can you repeat the question again?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a nebulous idea, but any kind of thing that sticks out to you as maybe having helped you or guided you or shaped you as you were finding your own artistic voice.
Okay, I would say that the best advice I could give would be to make a ton of work. That's really how I figured out everything. The more you make, the more chances there are that something decent is going to rise to the top. There have been people in my life who have, I've loved their work, and those people, that's influenced me a lot. But it's different to love something than be able to make it. And I had to just make so many things before something spoke to me. And I remember being in high school, it was the High School of Music and Art, and we only made 3 oil paintings in the oil painting class, and I didn't like any of them. So I just assumed I'm not a good painter. I can't do this at all. That's okay. I like to draw. Anyway, in college, we had to do 15 paintings over spring break. So many paintings they wanted out of us, and I was, it was really hard, but boy, is that a successful way to go about teaching a painting class. I mean, I wouldn't want to go through it necessarily again, but yeah, that's how you learn. You just make a lot of stuff, and obviously, you have to be obsessive to want to make that much stuff. So, that's where it starts. Do you have an obsessive personality, and are you willing to make a ton of things, whether it's writing or painting or dancing, whatever.
So Marissa, I have one other comment. I was amazed to look at the list of poems and see that the names weren't the same as the names of the paintings. That never occurred to me. Like early on, sometimes Katie would send a thing and it would say, Black Boots. But sometimes there was no name, and I would name it. I never wrote a thing without naming it first. I never wrote any of the poems without saying what the object was, and so naming it. And for me, that was the title of the poem. So all these titles back of Fender Deluxe, those are Katie's. Baby 1956 baby shoes, avocados and red peppers, which I got wrong. Awful chocolate cream pie. She sent that one morning, and that's what it said. Awful chocolate, and it was Olive, her daughter's chocolate cream pie that was made of completely of chemicals. But I there's no chance I could. I don't think. Well, not no chance. I don't want to exaggerate, but I wouldn't look at the thing without naming it. And for the most part, in the early days, Katie, you didn't name a lot of them, like half of them, but now they come with names most of the time, and I leave the names, well, like hangers. I mean, it just says hangers. So anyway, I leave the names, and that's the name of the poetry. It's probably the only way I can find my way back. If you ask me of a given poem, where it came from, how I got there, the only way I would ever follow that trail of breadcrumbs would be to start with the name and the image. look at it again, read the name, think about how I'm thinking about it, and follow it along. So those things are all part of it. And I admire these young people. They wrote independent poems, and the poems got their own names. So it never occurred to me. I don't, that's the way things go.
I have one final question. I think we're going to have to close with this question because we're right at 8 o'clock, but this is a great one to go out on, I think. So this one is for Katie, and it says, did making the paintings allow you to eventually let go of any of your objects, or do you still have most of them?
I have most of them. The goal has been to let go. I'm slowly getting there, but there's like a beautiful broken green plate, and I just feel like there's another painting to be made out of that one. And yeah, I'm like my mother in this way. It's hard to throw away some stuff. I mean, and the whole show is really about my mother and my father. My father collected a lot of things, and my mother, she didn't want to waste things. So there were other types of things that she sort of accumulated. Like there's a lot of the used tea bags in the show and things like that. And my father, he liked more like just traditionally beautiful things. So it's definitely a combo of, my feelings towards my parents. Was that Scott's question? Maybe I'll throw away something tonight. No guarantees. They don't take up a lot of space, so I can tell you that.
Thank you guys so much. I'm going to hand it back over to Kate to close us out for the evening, but you guys have been so generous with your answers, and it's been so great having you both. Thank you.
Well, thanks everybody, all these wonderful poets for Jim, of course, but all these new poets in my life. It's such an honor that you are responding to my work and that I'm part of your life now. So thank you so much for spending time with the paintings, and it's a beautiful thing that we can connect that way.
Yeah, that's every morning. Early.
Yeah.
Hi, am I on now?
Yes, you are. Why don't you lead us out, Kate?
Sorry. I'm very sorry to say goodnight because this has been such a wonderful evening. Katie and Jim, thank you so much for sharing your joy and your genius with us. It's been remarkable. And thank you to all the poets who are participating tonight. Thank you for making it happen. I'd like to close with the poem that I was able to relate to the most myself, because its subject is how I love to close any summer evening with my family. And guess what it's called? Toasting Marshmallows by Sophia, age 8, 2nd grade. Sophia. Marshmallow on a stick, fire crackling, moonlight in the night, toasting marshmallows. That does it for me. I also wanted to shout out to Jim. I now have a favorite new line, like kittens on the moon. That was one of your lines tonight, and that really got me too. So both of you really touched me, and thank you so much for being with us tonight. And we'll see you soon.